and welcome to episode 4 of All About African Violets. All About African Violets is musically sponsored by Ted Yoder. You can hear his wonderful music at www.tedyoder.com. Welcome back, everybody, and welcome if you are new. I'm glad you're here. I got so many great comments, not all on the website, but some via email, some on Facebook, and I have lots to tell you about today. So welcome to my sunroom. We will just get started and get talking. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about is NPK. We talked already about this last week, but I got an email from my friend Daryl Hoover, who lives in Colorado, and he said, Annie, the K in NPK is potash, not potassium. Hugs from Colorado, Daryl. So I looked back in the books and stuff that I had done my research in, and I left a comment back for Daryl. I said, I have also heard it called potash, but both the books that I, have been using for reference, they both call it potassium. So let me do some more research. So when I'm in doubt, I always email my friend Joyce Stork. And she is actually taking a chemistry class right now, which is great. And she said, I emailed her and I said, Joyce, I was asked to clarify NPK, which I did. And based on the books and research I did, it's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. I have also heard it called potash, but in Pauline's book, she says potassium, and your book says potassium. Daryl left me a comment and said, it's not potassium, it's potash. Can you advise? So it turns out we're both right. Daryl, if you're watching, we're both right. She says, it's a shade complicated. Plants need potassium because it acts as a catalyst for many of the plant processes. It plays a huge role in the regulation of water use inside the plant, from water movement through the xylem to opening and closing of the stomata on the underside of the leaf. Potash is the most common source of potassium in fertilizer. You will not find potassium in a pure elemental form, mostly because it reacts violently with water. So either term is correct at some level. And then she says, did I mention how much I'm enjoying my chemistry course? Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Daryl. So I hope that gives even more information on NPK and fertilizer. The other thing I wanted to show you is I did find my original copy of Pauline Bartholomew's book, Growing to Show. Oops, it just got dark in the camera there. I'm sitting kind of in the sun today. Again, trying another spot to see how the light is. I know I looked kind of like a pumpkin head last week, but I don't know if you can you see how it got all wet on my potting bench, and this one also, it opens right up to the pre-show schedule. I also got a comment that I didn't hold the books and the magazines and stuff up long enough for you guys to see them, so I'm going to try to be a little more judicious about that. But I just thought you'd like to see that this was a well-loved and well-used copy, and it's the reason that I finally thought, I should probably get another one. You can't hardly. It's just, it got all wet. Well, that's life on the potting bench. Things get wet. So I wanted to thank a couple of people today. And I mentioned Daryl Hoover. And Daryl Hoover has a great place in my heart because he was one of the very first people that I met when I was learning to grow African violets. As I mentioned to you before, I really feel like I learned to grow violets online. I really did not know anything. I was a beginner. I have a green thumb. I always had plenty of houseplants. But growing African violets was different, and I really did not know what to do. And Daryl and Diane Miller, who I've mentioned to you already on the podcast, they were some of the first people that I met on the message board on America Online, who really helped me learn how to grow violets. Daryl is a well-known hybridizer, and he is hybridizing again, and he specializes in minis and semis. You're going to see some amazing plants from him. I think he's also doing some streptocarpus hybrids. He has a website called Hoover's Hybrids. He sells his plantlets on eBay. And he is doing a video blog, he calls it. He occasionally posts little short snippets on Facebook, and I will link to his website in the show notes for you if you have an interest. So, and he obviously is also an expert. I don't consider myself an expert. I'm an experienced grower, but I have a lot of friends who really are experts, and I value them, not only for their expertise, but obviously for their friendship. So when I always say to you at the end of the podcast that if I don't know the answer to your question, I will know someone who does, Daryl's one of those people. Joyce is one of those people. Diane is one of those people. So I just wanted to kind of give all those guys a little shout out. I don't know if you just heard the train. The trains go by in the back part of my house here, way in the very, very back end of my land. And one just went by. So if you hear kind of a rumbling noise, it's not a thunderstorm today. As you can see, it's pretty sunny. I'm sitting in the sun in my sunroom. Well, that takes us to tips and treasures. And I had a great comment from Michael on the blog. He said, I'd really like to have a beginner section because I'm a beginner. But I've also had comments from other friends and who said to me, I don't really know anything. I really like watching your podcast because it's really fun to see you, but I don't always know what you're talking about. So maybe give us a little more, in terms of beginning information. So I thought, well, the podcast has been evolving in these early weeks, and maybe the tips section really is a beginner section every week, and there's something new for us all to learn. So I guess I thought I would kind of start with really one of the most basic things, because somebody said to me, what's a standard? And to me, that's, I just talk about them the way I understand them, and I've been growing for quite a while. So African violets, the ones you see like in a big box store or usually at your local florist, those are what are called standard violets. And it is kind of like a poodle. You know how poodles come in standard and miniature and teacup? They come in like 3 different sizes. And a standard poodle is the great big poodle. And a standard African violet is a larger sized violet. Violets also come in a size called large, which is even bigger than a standard violet. And if you pick up a copy of, I forgot to bring this with me to have in front of me. I will grab it for the second half of the podcast. The AVSA handbook for judges and growers and exhibitioners, that is a wonderful, wonderful resource as well. As a beginner, I like I said before, I was always the kid with the book, so I always look for a book to try to expand my knowledge. And I've shared a couple with you already. Pauline Bartholomew's Growing to Show, and Joyce and Kent Stork's You Can Grow African Violets. Those are both awesome references, and I can't recommend them highly enough. But the other book that kind of completes the trio is what in the vernacular is called the Judge's Handbook, and I will give you more information about that later on in the podcast. So I think, let's see, I can't remember what else I was gonna tell you. I made my show notes, I'm all excited, and I got the NPK thing going on there. I did do some taping of some different things this week, and there I said taping. Now this is one of the things that Tammy gave me a little lesson on this week, is that apparently I'm back in the day on my terminology, that nobody tapes anymore. It's not a video, it's not even really a film. I guess I'm recording digitally. So I did record some footage this week, but I'm going to save it for the weeks to come. I wish I had. One of the things I realized I've been really lacking in these early weeks is, I think my neighbor just left. You could see him pull away there. Sorry, the back, I've tilted myself today. So now you can see across through the shrubbery to my neighbor's driveway. Sorry. Anyway, Hi everybody, sorry, momentary technical difficulties there. Actually not momentary, because I got all discombobulated seeing my neighbor's car pull out of the driveway, and then I thought, oh, I'll just stop and keep going. And then I thought, no, I'll go and pick up my copy of the AVSA handbook. And then I went to do that, and I came back out to sit back down, and I had inadvertently pressed turned some dial on the camera that caused everything except one color to be shown in black and white. So that just took me about a half an hour to figure out what the heck I did. So now you can see the sun is behind a cloud, and it's not quite so bright in the sunroom, but it's still a beautiful day here in Chicagoland. And we were talking about the sizes of African violets. So I did go and I grabbed my copy, my brand new 2011 edition of the AVSA handbook for growers, exhibitors, and judges. And I may have mentioned in the vernacular, this is called the Judge's Handbook, and because we use it when we judge shows. But you'll notice that the first word is growers. So this book is, it's like the third leg in the trilogy of Growing to Show by Pauline Bartholomew, You Can Grow African Violets by Joyce and Kent Stork, and the AVSA Handbook. This is available directly from the AVSA. You can get it on the website there at avsa.org. And it's a loose leaf. You can put it in your own notebook. And I just wanted to read you, or give you a couple of pieces of information. We've been talking about standards, and now that I got discombobulated, I can't remember if I actually told you this or not. So if I've already said this, forgive me, but I wanted to keep moving forward here. So standards are like, violets are like poodles. They come in, like poodles, standard poodles, that's a big poodle, and a miniature poodle, and then a teacup poodle. Well, African violets come in a variety of sizes, and a standard is just like a poodle. It's a bigger violet. There is one size larger than standard, and that is large. So, but they're generally speaking, most violets are standards, and a large one would be called a large standard. And so a standard, and I'm reading to you now from, a standard would be more than 10 inches in diameter. The plant itself, the leaves that are kind of in a circle there. A small standard would be 8 to 10 inches in diameter. A semi-miniature plant would be 8 inches or less in diameter, and a miniature would be 6 inches or less in diameter. So that gives you an idea of the sizes. Many people really love to grow minis and semis because they can grow more of them in the space that they have. Remember, we talked last week about how Pauline Bartholomew says, limit your collection. And if someone wants to grow more plants, often they will begin to grow minis and semis. As mentioned in the past, I consider myself a standard grower. I really like to grow them. They take longer to grow than a mini or a semi, but I find that I have the best results with standards. Other people, they love to grow minis and semis. I can usually grow a semi. Minis and I, as I've mentioned before, we don't speak the same language. I don't really know what that's about, but throughout my violet growing career, I've never had great luck with miniatures. The plants I have now are standards and semis. So that's our beginner tip for today. Now I'm going to be right back, and you will have a quick look at what's on the stand. So I'll just tell you before you go there is that things are going to look a little different this week. I have done some taping. Oh wait, Tammy told me I'm not supposed to say taping anymore because it's not video, even though this is a video podcast. I guess I am recording digitally. I'm stuck in all my old terms, So, but I did record some footage. How's that? I recorded some footage of the plants this week. They're going to look a little bit different because I've got them on the pre-show schedule for the Missouri Valley African Violet Council's fall convention and show, which is in October in Tulsa. So that we are we're about 11 weeks out now. So they are on the pre-show schedule, and hopefully, cross your fingers, I will have some show plants to show you closer to that time. But I did some grooming and I did some repotting this week, and I did record all of those things, and I've saved them. I will show them to you in another episode. So take a look now at what's on the stands. Actually, you're going to see leaves first, I think, and then what's on the stands. I'll be right back. I did move the plants, the leaves upstairs. So here's a look today at what's on the stands here in the sunroom. Now, I can't lift them up quite as easily here, so I think maybe in the future I will take the lids off so you can get a better idea. I moved these up here because I really felt like they weren't doing so well down in the basement. So that's a look, and I'll explain that more in just a moment. That's a look at the stands here, and now I'll show you what's on the stands in the other room. Hi everybody, here's a look at what's on the stands. I just showed you the leaves out in the sunroom. They're not in the basement anymore, and these plants were all repotted this week. And I did take some film of that, or I recorded it. I'm trying to not use the old tape word. And so these do look a little different than they did last week, except for this little standard that's still just growing and doing really well. But everything else has been, kind of cleaned up. Leaves have been taken off. I did some grooming, which we'll talk about in a later episode, and everything is now potted into the pots that I'm hoping to take them to show in. Did you enjoy seeing those this week? Everything looks really different, doesn't it, than the week before? I really did some cleanup in terms of grooming. Plants are starting to get a nice symmetrical shape. And I also moved the leaves up from the basement. And before I tell you why I did that, I wanted to also mention that the sizes of the violets that when we were talking earlier, those are for what we call a single crown violet. Now violets also, those sizes also exist in what we call trailers, and those are African violets that have multiple crowns, and often they'll grow like a snowball, and they're really cool plants. So that's another type of African violet. And of course there are also species plants. Those are the original plants that all the hybrids that we have are descended from. So when someone is a hybridizer like Kent Stork or Daryl Hoover, they will hybridize two plants together to see what they can get. They have great knowledge in that area of what traits are recessive and which are dominant, and that's a whole nother science lesson, folks. So I'm not going to, that's advanced, so that's not beginner. So we won't go there yet. But if you have an interest in this, in the African Violet magazine, Dr. Jeff Smith writes a column about this, and he is extremely knowledgeable in this area. So that would be a great column for you to read in the magazine if that's something that you have an interest in. But anyway, I was going to tell you, in fact, I just looked down to see the magazine to see if I could grab his column, but it's not marked, so I'll show you next week. But I moved the leaves up from the basement, and in my past experience, I've had leaves have always done very well down there. But although everything looks fine, it seems to me that, things could be going a little more quickly. We're heading into almost 8 weeks of having those leaves been put down, and I'm not seeing any anything yet. I mean, it could take another 4 weeks or so, really, before we see anything, little baby plantlets poking up. But I realized that when the last time I had leaves that I was propagating, I had the light above them, but I also had the light on below them on the stands. And even though fluorescent tubes don't emit heat like incandescent bulbs do, they do emit some heat. So I decided to bring them upstairs and leave the top light on and have the bottom light on that plant stand. And already I can see that the humidity level is higher inside each of the domed trays. So I'm hoping that that's going to be maybe a little better spot for them at this time. Maybe because I don't have any other plants. Normally I would have had other plants on the shelf below downstairs, and those lights would have been on up underneath the plantlets. So that wasn't happening. And it is much cooler in my basement than it is up here on the main floor of the house. So we'll see what happens with those. So now it's time. Actually, before I get the bail money ready, I also wanted to show you some tools that I like to use. Now, everybody has a favorite tool. For some people, it's the trash can. My friend Joyce Stork told me that her favorite tool is a Ziploc bag when I showed you how to make a mini greenhouse. I have a variety of tools, and I don't know, it's hard to pick just one, but I've got some here, and you'll see these in use during future episodes. But this is one that I love. Yes, it's a paintbrush. I got it at the Violet Showcase. They have a beginner's, like a grooming kit, where you'll get this paintbrush, and you'll also get my favorite tweezers that have the bent nose tweezer. I hope you can see that. I've also discovered that my camera, the focus doesn't seem to automatically adjust very well when I'm shooting a video. Video. I'm sorry, Tammy. I keep trying to say all these terms that I'm supposed to say, but I keep falling into my old habits. But anyway, so I don't want to. I hope that that's in focus and you can see it. This is just like a 1-inch synthetic, a very soft brush. I use this for grooming, not my arm, but grooming plants, and to brush dirt off. It's this is a great one. It's my favorite one. These are my favorite tweezers, and they have a bent nose, able to get in underneath. I think you may have seen these at one point already, but these are great. I also have an X-Acto knife, and this one does not have its cover on it right now, so it is very, very sharp. And this blade is not a fresh blade, it's recently been used, so you may be able to see that it's kind of discolored partway down. Those are great for cutting off. You want to have, you've heard me say you want to have a fresh cut. Particularly when you are putting leaves down to propagate, you would make a fresh cut on the stem of the leaf, and this is what you would do it with. A very, very sharp blade. You need to be very cautious with these. Either have a cover for this, take the blade out, or have a cork somewhere. If you have an old wine cork, you can kind of poke this into the wine cork, and that will keep you from impaling yourself on it. We want to avoid that at all costs. So now, why did I bring the plants back, the leaves upstairs? I've already told you that. And I'm trying to think what else I had to tell you, but I don't think I do. I think we're done with what's on the stands. So it's time to get the bail money ready. Not too much going on right now. Again, the event that's coming up the quickest, for me anyway, is the Illinois State Show. I told you the wrong town last time. It's not in the Chicago Botanic Gardens, garden singular, is not in Glenview. It is in Glencoe, Illinois, and it is a wonderful place. So if you are in the area, in the Chicagoland area, and you would like to come next weekend, there's no charge to get into the garden, but there is a charge for parking. So if you are not a member of the Chicago Botanic Garden or one of the sister gardens where they do reciprocal entry stuff, then you drive, you will need to pay $20 to get in to park. But if you have friends, maybe you guys can carpool together and split that cost. Or if you're a member of the garden, obviously, they just let you drive in and park. And then come on in and find us. I believe we're in the Bernstein Hall. So I'll be there, and if you do come, please find me. You know what I look like. I don't know what you look like, probably, if we haven't met. So come and find me and introduce yourself. I would love to meet you. Also, I wanted to tell you it's Dave and Nancy Rollins are the guest speakers. If you wish to participate in any of the classes or presentations that they are giving, that there is a charge, and it is $5. You can register for the convention on the Illinois African Violet Society website and just send in your check for $5, and I will link to that in the show notes on the website for you to be able to see that. And Dave and Nancy Rollins are from Cedar Creek Violets, and I will also link to their website as well. Now, keep moving forward. If you will hold on for just one moment, I actually had something I wanted to show you, and I'll be right back with it. I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm really discombobulated today, you guys. I don't know. I'm sorry about that. But I did tell you that I am also a fiber artist, and I just finished a pair of socks. And so I know there are some of you who are watching the podcast who are also fiber artists. So I thought I would show this to you. This is the Peace Rose Garden sock. I actually have two of them. I only put one of them on a sock blocker to show it to you. And it's a great pattern. It's very simple. If you are a sock knitter and you have been looking for something a little bit different, it's based on the feather and fan stitch pattern, which is also called Old Shale. And it makes this beautiful curve in this yarn. And this yarn is self-striping yarn. It is dyed by an independent dyer. Her name is Jody, and the yarn is called Fish Knits, and she has an Etsy shop. And if you are a knitter and you are looking for some really wonderful stuff, her self-striping yarns are beautiful. This is knit out of her Strong Heart base, and it has contrasting cuffs and toes. So I'm always happy when I finish a pattern. It means that I can keep moving forward to whatever my next knitting project is. So I hope that you keep moving forward in your life, in whatever that looks like for you. I hope to see you next week. Thank you for joining me. Please tell your friends to come and join us as well. Thank you for the wonderful comments on iTunes and the star ratings. That helps so much. Please leave your comments on the website, and I will look forward to seeing you again next week. I hope your days are filled with all the things you love. Good growing. See you next time.